personal motives, but they were using their anger to fulfill the duty as Kshatriyas and also to fulfill their service as devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the welfare of their citizens. So this pastime of Prachetas getting angry is very, very similar to the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj when Dhruva Maharaj got angry. So we'll see this in the Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam. When Dhruva Maharaj heard of the killing of his brother Uttama by the Yakshas in the Himalaya mountains, being overwhelmed with lamentation and anger, he got on his chariot and went out for victory over the city of the Yakshas, that is Alkapuri. And in purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Dhruva Maharaj's anger Dhruva Maharaj's becoming angry, overwhelmed with grief and envious of the enemies was not incompatible with his position as a great devotee. It is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry, envious, or overwhelmed by lamentation. Dhruva Maharaj was the king, and when his brother was unceremoniously killed, it was his duty to take revenge against the Yakshas from the Himalayas. And also there is a short story. Anybody would like to read this story?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read,
Hare
please?
Krishna. Yes, please.
There is a short story in this connection about a snake who became a devotee upon instruction by Narada, who instructed him not to bite anymore. Since ordinarily a snake's business is to fatally bite other living entities, as a devotee he was forbidden to do so. Unfortunately, people took advantage of this non-violence on the part of the snake, especially the children, who began to throw stones at him. He did not bite anyone, however, because it was the instruction of his spiritual master. After a while, when the snake met his spiritual master Narada, he complained, I have given up the bad habit of biting innocent living entities, but they are mistreating me by throwing stones at me. Upon hearing this, Narada Muni instructed him, don't bite, but do not forget to expand your hood as if you were going to bite. Then they will go away. Similarly, a devotee is always non-violent. He is qualified with all good characteristics. But in the common world, when there is mischief made by others, he should not forget to become angry, at least for the time being, in order to drive away the miscreants. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.11.31 purport. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So we see here how we can use anger as a service or as to fulfill our duty. So I just wanted to make a point that as we see here in the pastime of Prachetas in Dhruva Maharaj, this question comes in our mind that if they were using their anger in their service or as their duty, then why did Lord Brahma he come to pacify them? Or why, in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, why Swambhuva Manu appeared to pacify him? So, this question comes in our mind. So we'll see the reason why. So here, it is mentioned that Dhruva Maharaj was a liberated soul, and actually he was not angry with anyone. But because he was the ruler, it was his duty to become angry for some time in order to keep law and order in the state. His brother Uttama was without fault, yet he was killed by one of the Yakshas. It was the duty of Dhruva Maharaj to kill the offender, life for life, because Dhruva Maharaj was the king. When the challenge came, Dhruva Maharaj fought vehemently and punished the Yakshas sufficiently. But anger is such that if one increases it, it increases unlimitedly. In order that Dhruva Maharaj's kingly anger not exceed the limit, Manu was kind enough to check his grandson. So we can see here that anger, when it increases, it can increase unlimitedly. So in order to check the anger of Dhruva Maharaj, Manu Maharaj was kind enough to pacify his grandson. So the main point here is that anger should not exceed the limit when we are using it for the service of the Lord. And again, we can see how very beautifully Srila Prabhupada explains here that when Dhruva Maharaj beyond the limits, when Dhruva Maharaj went beyond the limits of necessary anger, his grandfather Swambhuva Manu immediately came to protect him from further sinful action. From this, we can understand that killing is not bad, but when killing is done unnecessarily or when an offenseless person is killed, such killing opens the path to hell. Dhruva Maharaj was saved from such sinful action because he was a great devotee. A Kshatriya is allowed to kill only for maintenance of the law and order of the state. He is not allowed to kill or commit violence without reason. Violence is certainly a path leading to a hellish condition of life, but it is also required for maintenance of the law and order of the state. Here, Lord Manu prohibited Dhruva Maharaj from killing the Yakshas because only one of them was punishable for killing his brother Uttama. Not all of the Yaksha citizens were punishable. So very beautifully Srila Prabhupada explains that how we can use the anger and how it can, we have to be very cautious when we're using this anger. So similarly, Lord Brahma appeared to the Prachetas along with the moon god to check their anger because it was exceeding the limit. Lord Brahma, out of compassion, prevented them from committing further sinful actions because now their actions were becoming adharma. So initially, we see their anger, which they were using it for the service of their Lord, for the service of the Lord. Now, because the anger has exceeded the limit, exceeded the necessary, the required limit, now it was becoming an anartha. So here, Prachetas, they needed some land to grow the crops, but there was no need to burn. They needed some land to burn the trees, but sorry, they needed some land, and for that they needed to burn some trees, but there was no need to burn all the trees to ashes. So initially, the anger which was used to fulfill their service for the welfare of the citizens was now becoming an anartha, as I mentioned. Thus, Lord Brahma stopped them from creating further destruction. So this anger, it actually acts like a fire. So with fire, it can help you to cook nice meals, but you have to be cautious because it can also burn you. So similarly, when we are using anger in the service of the Lord, we have to be very cautious. And not much detail is given as how the prachetas were pacified, but this pastime, the detail of this pastime, how they were pacified, is actually given in the sixth canto, and we can see how moon god, under the advice of Lord Brahma, pacifies the prachetas. So I thought it is very relevant. So I wanted to share this. So here, Sukadev Goswami is saying to my dear King Parikshit, when Soma, the king of the trees and predominating deity of the moon, saw the fire and wind burning all the trees to ashes, he felt great sympathy because he is the maintainer of all herbs and trees. To appease the anger of the Prachetas, Soma spoke as follows. So we can see the predominating deity of the moon is the maintainer of all the trees and plants throughout the universe. And it is due to moonshine that trees and plants grow very luxuriantly. And also in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 13, Krishna says that I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So here we can see the predominating, this is actually confirmed that the predominating deity of the trees is actually the moon god and how he nourishes all the trees and the forests. So we'll see here how moon god is specifying the prachetas. There are few more texts to follow. Oh, greatly fortunate ones, you should not kill these poor trees by burning them to ashes. Your duty is to wish the citizens, the prajas, all prosperity and to act as their protectors. It is indicated herein that the government or the king has the duty of protecting not only the human beings, but all other living entities, including animals, trees, and plants. So no living entity should be killed unnecessarily. O pure-hearted ones, your father, Prachina Bharhi, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead have ordered you to generate population. Therefore, how can you burn to ashes these trees and herbs which are needed for the maintenance of your subjects and descendants? The path of goodness traversed by your father, grandfather, and great grandfather is that of maintaining the subjects, prajas, including the men, animals, and trees. That is the path you should follow. Unnecessary anger is contrary to your duty. Therefore, I request you to control your anger. So, in a monarchy, a king with a prestigious position follows the great deeds of his forefathers. Thus, Soma, the king of the moon, here reminds the Prachetas about the glories of their father, grandfather, and great grandfather. So, similarly, Swambhuva Manu also, when he is specifying Dhruva Maharaj, he is also reminding him of the great family lineage. He's saying that how can we have a great family lineage and how can you do this? So this is one of the ways that the moon god is and Swambhuva Manu, they are pacifying uh, the Prachetas and Dhruva Maharaj. And further on, he's saying that the Supreme Personality of God is situated as the super soul within the cores of the hearts of all living entities, whether moving or non-moving, including men, birds, animals, trees, and indeed all living entities. Therefore, you should consider every body a residence or temple of the Lord. By such vision, you will satisfy the Lord. You should not angrily kill these living entities in form of trees. So Soma told Prachetas that because they tried to satisfy the super soul, Supreme Lord Vishnu, now they should not do anything to displease him. And he says that one who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. So when one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. So Soma, knowing these Prachetas, they're great personalities, they're highly self-realized souls. So he's actually instructing them that now you transcend from the mode of material nature, you please transcend to the mode of pure goodness and act in knowledge. And finally, he's saying that there is no need to burn these poor trees any longer. Let whatever trees still remain be happy. Indeed, you should also be happy. Now, here is a beautiful, well qualified girl named Marisha who was raised by the trees as their daughter. You may accept this beautiful girl as your wife. So, this is how the Prachetas were pacified. We understand that in the beginning it is mentioned in the previous few texts, it is mentioned that Lord Brahma also, like, he appeared to pacify the Prachetas. So we can understand Lord Brahma along with the moon god, because the moon god was the one who delivered this his daughter, his foster daughter, to the Prachetas. So he also, with Lord Brahma, he also came to pacify the Prachetas. We can understand that as well. So now we'll talk about another point we learn from this verse is that the Prachetas, they recognize this superior authority. This point was also mentioned by His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj, that they recognized higher authority. So how they did that is because as soon as this personality appeared, they stopped burning trees as they were instructed by their superiors. And it is the duty of the Kshatriyas to always recognize and value the advice of the Brahmanas so that they can properly execute their duties for the welfare of their citizens, as Prachetas took the advice of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, we know, is Adi Kavi, and he is actually the he's always there to maintain the balance of the universe. So he's always ready to give advice and instructions to to the personalities. As the Prachetas were instructed, they remained quiet. They were attentive and they were submissive to the instructions. And they did not say anything in defense. They did not say that, oh Lord Brahma, oh moon god, why it was our duty. That's why uh, we were burning the trees because we needed some land to grow crops and food grains. But they did not say anything in their defense. They did not protest. Rather, they kept quiet and they were attentive and submissive and they accepted the instructions given to them. And Prachetas, they were extremely angry, and it is not easy to withdraw that extreme anger at that moment so that you can prepare yourself to hear good instruction. This great ability can only be shown by pure devotees of the Lord, and this quality is also shown by Dhruva Maharaj. So, when a conditioned soul, like an ordinary soul, when he or she gets angry, obviously that is a material anger. And it is when someone is extremely angry, it is very difficult at that moment to give them good instructions. I mean, it takes a while to actually for them to subdue their anger, because for some it can take days, months, even years. And another thing is whether they will take good instructions. That's another thing. But this ability to withdraw extreme anger is shown by the Prachetas and also by Dhruva Maharaj. So these are great personalities, and only they can do such things. So this shows the quality of the pure devotees. And extreme circumstances, they can actually transcend the modes of material nature and act in pure goodness. And that is very admirable and inspiring. Advanced devotees, they value superior guidance, so that as soon as they see a superior authorities, in such circumstances, like we see in the case of Prachetas and Dhruva Maharaj, and in a very grave and serious circumstance, the moment they see their well wishers, they realize that they're well wishers and they are actually here to save them from some calamity, and they are actually grateful for that advice. And we can see that Srila Prabhupada says that even if, as great personalities, when they commit some mistake, so Srila Prabhupada mentions that it is okay to err, because we are human beings, but to actually rectify with a cool head, that is actually required. So this quality, this is shown by these advanced devotees. And when Dhruva Maharaj showed this quality, Kuvera, the master of Yakshas, became so pleased that he gave Dhruva Maharaj benedictions. And here, Lord Kuvera, he says, "O sinless son of a Kshatriya, I am very glad to know that under the instructions of your grandfather, you have given up your enmity, although it is very difficult to avoid, and I am very pleased with you." So, by his humble attitude, Dhruva Maharaj was able to attract benedictions from Kuvera. And what benedictions he asked from Kuvera? To have unflinching devotional service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So if we act in such a way, we can attract benedictions from our superior authorities. So this is we can learn from this example. And another point is that here, as devotees, we always need superior guidance so that we do not fall down. And this is a very nicely explained in the pastime of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, he gave protection to a deer because the deer was in a distressed condition. So, was that his fault that he gave protection to a deer? No, definitely not. His fault was that he became attached to the deer, and because of that attachment, he neglected his spiritual duties, and nobody was around him. There was no devotee association, uh, no superior guidance to actually check his attachment and actually check his um, progress in his devotional life. And this one question that can come in our mind is that in the case of Prachetas and Dhruva Maharaj, they are pure devotees. So they had personal darshan of the Lord, and they personally took instructions from the Lord, but still they had to take, superior guidance because they were pure devotees. So Lord Chaitanya confirms this in Madhya Lila when he's instructing Srila Sanatan Goswami on on the signs of pure devotional service. He's saying Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Haya Sadhu Sangha Krishna Prema Janme Tenho Puna Mukhya Anga. The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, so this is it is we can emphasize that even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with devotees is still most essential. So even though one becomes pure devotees, Lord Chaitanya says that association with devotees is most essential. So this is actually shown by the pastimes of Prachetas and Dhruva Maharaj. And His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, in this connection, he says that in one of his lectures, he mentioned that even if one is enlightened, that does not mean one becomes free from the need for guidance, the need for instructions, and the need for devotee association. The Prachetas and Dhruva Maharaj are showing us that we should never go beyond the need for good association, the need for good guidance, and the need for good instructions. And we see in the example of the Pandavas, they were pure devotees of the Lord. And it's not that the Lord Krishna just appeared to them at once and instructed them and then he disappeared. The Lord was always there to guide them whenever they were in difficulty. And the Lord was always there to instruct them. So this is very essential point. And another thing we can learn from this pastime is that this we can see that as a pastime of the Lord. And this was the arrangement of the Lord through this incident of burning the trees. The daughter of the trees would be delivered to the Prachetas. So by this arrangement of the Lord, the Prachetas would actually be introduced to their future wife. So this is the arrangement of the Lord, and we can see this as a pastime of the Lord and his devotees. And who else can teach us apart from the Lord and his devotees? So who is the best to teach us apart from the Lord and his devotees? The Lord, he makes certain arrangements in the life or in the lives of his devotees so that we, conditioned souls, we can learn from that pastimes and we can apply it in our life. So the Lord and his devotees, they set examples for us to show us how one should act and how one should not act. And by seeing that, we can apply that knowledge in our life. And this example just came to my mind, just how the lawyers and the judges, they in their bookshelves, they're full of law books and case laws. And whenever there is they're dealing with any current case, they usually refer to those case laws. The case laws are the previous cases, and a precedence is set that how the decision was made in this particular case. So similarly, for us, these pastimes of the Lord, they are like the case laws, and when we are dealing uh, when we are in certain situations of our life that we need guidance, we refer to those past times, how it was dealt, or how um, what we can learn from those past times. So we are actually the lawyer or the judge of our own life, where we can always refer to these pastimes of the Lord. So it's nice to have the collection of Srila Prabhupada's books, so that we can always refer to these scriptures and apply the knowledge from these scriptures in our life. So I think I'll just finish here. This is all I have to say. And if anybody would like to add anything, or share their realization um, in this verse, regarding this verse or purport. So these were some of the points that I found very important. So please go ahead and share. And yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
And thank you so much for bringing up the points, necessary points to understand the nature of anger, the control of anger, and the right use of anger in the right situation is very important. You've given such good examples of showing the references from our Shastra with all the examples, especially from Canto 6. This, uh, this shows how the anger can be. It, from the apparent side, it looks like the angers are to be angriness of the person is there, but we don't understand why that anger is shown. So to understand the necessary use of the anger in the right consciousness with the examples showing that anger is necessary, but the right use of anger in the right place is also very important. And to understand the impact of the use of anger, we see from the references from Shastra. And you nicely mentioned that the anger should be there, but the right use is necessary for the references from the scriptures. As you mentioned, is that the law books, the reference books that gives us the right references in the right time of necessity is the right use of anger or right method of using the service to the Lord. So these all examples are showing how to use the anger in the right perspective. And even we can see the advanced devotees also, they use the anger in the right consciousness, but to maintain that attitude, we need the association. And that association is very, very important. As the example shows that without the association of the devotee, you may be diverted in the wrong direction. So you need to be always be checked by the Shastra's injunction so that you do the rightful decision in the right time of necessity. So this text is showing us how to use the anger in the purposeful way. Thank you so much for explaining this in very illustrative way so that we can understand that anger is not a bad thing, but using the anger in the right and purposeful way is most important. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your nice points. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Ratnalekha Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Thank you for a nice class. Second time on the Zoom. Just listening to your class, I mean, such an important lesson on anger management. I mean, so many books have been written about anger management, but I think they don't mention about the obeying the authority. So in this case, we can see the Prachidas were at least humble enough to obey Lord Brahma. But in a real situation like somebody, a devotee gets angry or is issue going on, uh, how should one handle when somebody doesn't listen to the authority? I mean, the anger is so intense, and one to just don't want to listen to anybody. So how should one listen to control that?
So, Prabhu, even we see in the case of our spiritual master, like spiritual master, they would impart instructions only if that the disciple's ability is to take that instruction. So if someone is not able to digest that instruction, you won't instruct that person, because you know that even if you instruct such person, that person might not like it, and they may not be able to digest, and as a result they may commit offenses. So we see, we have to discriminate to see if that person has the ability to accept the instructions or not. So just like I mentioned that spiritual masters, they see their disciples at what level of advancement they are at, and according to their level of advancement they instruct their disciple. Okay, this disciple, he has that ability to accept these instructions, so only then they will instruct them. Otherwise it's best to keep quiet, because you have to see whether that person will be able to take your instructions or not. And yeah, you just have to judge and see the ability in that person, that whether that person has that ability to digest your instructions or not. So in such situations, if they are not, then it's best to just keep quiet. That is my understanding, Prabhu. If anybody would like to add anything.
So
Yes.
if somebody's angry and we are there and the angry person is not willing to listen to anybody, we should just walk away because they're not likely to listen to anybody else. I think that might be one option.
Yeah, that might be one option, to walk away, and because at that moment they are not ready to listen. So it would be best to walk away, and when their anger is subdued, when they are calmed down, then only you can try to instruct them, because most of the time our false ego is so thick, it's so big, that to take someone's good instructions, it's not easy. That actually requires humility, Prabhu. So yeah, it depends on the level of advancement. And at one point, His Grace Shrutakirti Prabhu, the secretary, personal secretary of Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned that when Prabhupada used to get angry, he was just showing this example, that he would chant loudly on his beads. So I don't know how else to control a person who is in extreme anger. Is anyone else would like to add in anything on this?
In the anger management courses, they say somebody get angry, so they should count 1 to 10, cool down. But in this sort of situation, the person is so intense, I don't think they want to count or even chant. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think it's very good instruction from Lord Brahma to the Pachetas. At least they were humble enough to listen to the authority of Lord Brahma, and the situation got diffused.
Mm.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Anybody else like to comment on this? This is very important aspect of anger management. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
very much.
Prabhu. Dharma Pranam.
Thank you very much for the very nice class, particularly regarding bringing the issue of anger here. What I understand here, two things we have to learn here. The first is you have told about the individual anger. The individual anger, as it comes from the personal ego, false ego. And in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 62 onwards, it is quite it is clearly chalked out the reason for that. That when Dhavate Vishwan Pungsho Sangasteshu Poyate Sangat Sangyayate Kamo Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And this is the thing. First is for contemplating on sense objects, one tries to has a desire to get them, and when it fails to get it, it becomes anger. And what is the result of that? Kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati shanmo. and immediately he forgets what is reality. Illusion comes. Illusion means I have forgotten what is my duty, what is our surrounding. So the immediate result of a person in anger, he forgets the reality. What is his duty? What is his responsibility? And so, and he falls down. Subsequently, it is if it is not stopped, falls down. But another things you have told here, the duty of the Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are to give protection to the society. That is in the Varnashrama Dharma. It is mentioned in our Varnashrama system that they will give protection to the society. And for that, they have to use violence. So here I have some difference. I mean, I'm thinking I am not authorized to tell, but I'm still give you my opinion. It is not really an anger. It is that they are duty bound to protect the society. So they are in a and they are in a position of authority also. The society has given them the authority to deal with that. So when they do that, they try to control sometimes by use of force. Use of force, as we say in the day-to-day life, we see the police is there, the military is there. When there is an external aggression, the military takes over, and the police has to. So they have to use a force, and they are not angry. They are just using their duty to protect the society. So individual anger and the action of an executive on the part of those who are protecting the society, and that responsibility they are discharging their responsibility. They are not really angry. They are really trying to keep order. So of course, Prabhupada is used the term, and you have also used the term that use of the anger. But I believe they are not in angry. If a police officer is angry, he doesn't dispose his duty properly, or a military also cannot do his duty properly if he is angry. But he is doing his duty using force. So there is a bit distinction, in my opinion. Of course, I'm sorry.
But that's okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much
If
for
I'm
adding
wrong,
that points, those
everyone is
points.
here to correct me because it is my opinion.
Oh,
So here the project, and in this situation, when they are using force, there is a third party normally, as in the Varnashrama system, the Brahmanas were there. They were superior to the Kshatriyas to give them advice. So they were authorized to give advice that you have exceeded the limit, you should not do that. Just as Brahma has, just Manu Maharaj, Swayambhu Manu has given advice to Dhruva. And similarly here, Brahma has also given him. So in this way, there is a protection in the system. The Varnashrama system is there. The Brahmanas were giving advice to the Kshatriyas to give them in order. So that way the balance was maintained. So because Varnashrama is the best system created by the Lord himself, because Chaturvarnam Maya system Guna Karma Vivas, the Lord has created it, that is the best system. And that is, but unfortunately in the present age, Varnashrama system is not in force. And the people, the Kali Yuga, everything is fallen down. So it is very difficult to control the situation. And they are also not being maintained according to the Varnashrama Dharma. Sorry for that, for taking time, and sorry. And
that's okay,
so
Prabhu.
this is my
Thank you so
opinion.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and thank you very much. Anyone else would like to share or add anything?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Mataji, just
Uh,
to add on this and the discussion,
yeah,
the
sure,
anger
Prabhu.
management. Sometimes you have to put the situation in a little bit settling time, because settling time is very, very necessary for both of the sides, because the angry side uh, and the other side, supportive side, because time will heal accordingly. That's why when we see in day to day in our works also, we also come across of such situation, but we are given training or instruction or advices, to settle the situation by the time. So you have to give some time to settle down, and then you apply your advice. Then how the advice will go through their head. So it is a matter of situation, handling the situation. We often face this situation in our works. So it's the same way. The reaction should not be immediate. You need to see. If you see the through our scripture. Everybody is watching the situation. Even Lord Brahma didn't come immediately. Narad Muni didn't come immediately. They are watching the situation to the limit, as you mentioned. There is a limit. So to that limit, they had to wait, or everybody has to wait so that the settling time arrives. When the settling time arrives, then they come and advises. So settling time is very, very important to anger management. So don't react immediately. Immediate reaction will spoil the whole situation. So that is the gap. We need to understand and act accordingly. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for adding many wonderful, nice points. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Uh, no one has anything to say. Maybe we can end here. Nanvaj Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Panchakalpadurvasya
कृपासिन्धुभ्यो
कृपासिन्धुमेव
पतितानं
पतितानं
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो
अनंत
नमः।
कोटि
अनंत
वैष्णव
कोटि
वृंद की
वैष्णववृंद
जय।
की जय।
आर
आरजे
वैष्णव
स्वप्नलता
लेखा
प्रभु
माता
की
की
जय।
जय।
शिला प्रभुपाद की
प्रभुपाद
जय।
की
जय।
जय।
जय
गौर की
सच्चिदानंदे
प्रेमानंदे
हरि
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 बोल।
बोल।
All
All
glory to
praise
the
to
assembled
assembled
devotee.
devotees.
Hare
Hare
हरे
Krishna.
Krishna.
कृष्णा।